gas in ANWR.
A large majority of Americans support drilling in ANWR, which can be done without harming the environment. Over the last 30 years, the United States has drilled for and recovered over 15 billion barrels of oil from Alaska's North Slope, a mere 70 miles to the west of ANWR.
The inhabitants who live in that area want that energy production, and they're tired of the parental attitude the people who live a 6 and 8 hour flight away from them have in telling them what they can and cannot do for their own good. It's very insulting and frustrating to them.
Why? Because they have seen in Prudhoe Bay the workings of the oil and gas industry with the state of Alaska, with the federal government, to get development done in an environmentally responsible way.
Alaskans overwhelmingly want to drill for more oil in their own backyard, but Congress continues to oppose lifting the ANWR ban while Americans pay more at the pump.
We need to open ANWR now because America is at an energy crisis point. We're consuming as much as we produce from our refineries. We import 60% of our oil from foreign countries. That amounts to $40 million per hour we are spending and giving that money abroad. That money is like burning $100 bills. You never see any infrastructure, you never see any jobs, you never see any benefit whatsoever to this country because the money goes abroad and we burn it up in our gas tanks.
The message from the American people is loud and clear. To lower our energy prices, we want more of our country's resources developed now.
So let's take a look at all of the energy resources available in America today and those that we can develop for tomorrow.
Water has been harnessed throughout history to make our lives easier. And for over 100 years, we've used water to produce electricity. Although most energy in the United States is produced from fossil fuel and nuclear power, hydroelectricity still plays a vital role in our nation's energy strategy. Hydroelectricity is a source of clean energy and today supplies over 16% of the world's electricity. In the United States, about 7% of our electricity is produced at hydroelectric plants. The magnificent Hoover Dam, considered to be one of the greatest engineering projects ever built.
After 5 short years of construction, the Hoover Dam was completed in 1935, 2 years ahead of schedule, at a cost of $165 million, once again demonstrating America's ability to get the job done.
Over 726 feet high and 660 feet thick at its base, the Hoover Dam holds almost 4.5 million cubic yards of concrete, enough to pave a 2-lane highway from San Francisco to New York.
Back in 1935, the Hoover Dam was both the world's largest electric power producing facility and the world's largest concrete structure. Today, 73 years later, it's the world's 34th largest hydroelectric generating station.
Hydroelectricity, or hydropower, comes from water power and is the most widely used source of renewable energy today.
Large hydroelectric installations, like the one here at the Hoover Dam, generate most of our Earth's hydroelectricity.
Unlike most power plants, hydroelectricity, which is generated by the force of moving water, doesn't deplete finite resources, produces no waste or carbon dioxide, burns no fossil fuels, and emits no greenhouse gases.
Since it was built, the Hoover Dam has produced over 150 billion kilowatts of electricity. That's enough energy to provide power for 1 million homes for 20 years.
The state of hydropower is strong. We've tapped a lot of the resources already in terms of this country. The exciting part is that there are more opportunities and there's also a new fleet of technologies that we might be able to use. Ocean power technologies, in-stream flows, sometimes using tidal power. All of those have great potential.
Hydroelectric power is one of America's most dependable energy sources. Many hydroelectric plants have been in service for 50 to 100 years. The facility here at Hoover Dam will soon be celebrating its 75th anniversary.
America needs clean and renewable energy sources like hydroelectric power, which allow us to provide more electricity to more people each year while continuing to reduce our emissions.
For centuries, mankind has harnessed the wind's energy to pump water, run sawmills, power sailboats, and for the past 150 years, to generate electricity. Wind-generated energy is a source of clean, renewable power and is the fastest-growing energy technology in the world.
We're here at the Horse Hollow Wind Energy Center in Abilene, Texas, the largest wind farm in the world, home to 421 wind turbines in nearly 60,000 acres of land.
The massive turbines here at Horse Hollow are high-tech descendants of the windmills that pumped water and ran small machinery for generations of rural Americans.
Each turbine, each wind turbine that you'll see, if it's generating 1.5 megawatts, will produce enough power for 240 homes. So over the entire site, you'll generate enough power for over 100,000 homes. As long as the wind blows, we'll be generating power.
The wind might not be blowing when we need the most energy. We should use wind energy where we can. That's why you have to have a combination of everything. So when somebody comes up and says wind is the answer, well, it is a part of the answer.
These state-of-the-art windmills can be as high as 410 feet tall, with blades stretching over 200 feet in length. In 1 year, a 3-megawatt wind turbine can collect enough energy to produce the same amount of power as 12,000 barrels of imported oil.
Wind power is a marvelous source of power. We're seeing dramatic increases in states stepping up to the plate.
If you just look at the northern Great Plains, we probably have enough wind power with today's generation technologies and turbines to provide the country's electricity several times over.
In the United States, we currently use wind power to generate 48 billion kilowatts of electricity a year. That's enough to power 4.5 million households.
But that's only 1% of current demand. We can do so much more.
The wind itself is free. The only cost is infrastructure and transmission. Right now, consumers using wind-powered electricity are only paying between 4.5 and 7.5 cents per kilowatt hour.
A name that's recently become synonymous with Texas and wind power is T. Boone Pickens.
Using private investment and technology that already exists, we can supply 20% of our electricity needs.
With this type of entrepreneurial vision and can-do achievement, we can develop alternative energy systems. And when you combine alternative energy systems with America's traditional natural resources and energy, we can create a more secure energy future for America.
Wind. It's clean, it's renewable, and it's good for America. Of all the energy resources in America, the greatest of all may be oil shale.
Oil shale is essentially, it's a rock. If you took it out and put it in your hand, it would probably look like most other rocks. It'd be a little bit lighter because it's fairly porous. And in that porosity is where the oil rests.
And all you have to do is put pressure of some kind to try and take the stuff out of it and then refine that into oil. So we're on the cusp of being able to move forward to have this huge supply of what some people have called the Saudi Arabia of oil shale. From 1 ton of this, we could produce almost 70 gallons.
As an alternative fuel source, oil shale can be used to create diesel and jet fuel, providing America with a significant source of energy for our future.
Well, oil shale is banned for the same reasons that we ban offshore drilling, and we have extreme environmental groups who claim that it will poison the world and the planet, and they won't even allow new technologies which are much safer and cleaner.
Oil shale is not a new discovery. Humans have been using it as a fuel since prehistoric times. France was the first to mine oil shale in 1837, where it was used to produce kerosene, lamp oil, and grease during the Industrial Revolution. Reserves of oil shale are found all over the world, including massive deposits in America's Green River Formation.
The bulk of the world's oil shale, Colorado, Wyoming, and my state of Utah. And in there, it is estimated there's 1.3 trillion gallons of oil that is recoverable. There's enough oil there for the next 100 years if we used just oil shale.
The studies I've seen recently shows that they could produce oil shale for somewhere around $60 to $70 a barrel. Well, you know, at $40 a barrel didn't make sense to do it. But now that oil has surpassed $100 a barrel, this makes sense to go after this resource.
So eventually we'll get there. Most big gains industry has made have been as a result of the commitment to technology. You're probably looking at 10 years, but think of the various things, if we'd done them 10 years early, how we could have avoided some of the problem we have today. And now's the time to get that technology and push it and push it and push it.
Natural gas is our country's second largest energy resource and a vital component of our energy supply. We use it to produce 22% of our electricity.
We have a lot of ways now to get natural gas out of the ground safely, relatively inexpensively, and with the environment fully in mind, that is fully in comport with environmental laws.
Natural gas reserves are twice as abundant as that of petroleum and are significantly less expensive than gasoline or diesel.
Almost 98% of our natural gas comes from North America. Most people will say we have somewhere between 60 and 120 years of conventional supply of natural gas left.
Natural gas is one of the cleanest and cheapest transportation fuels available today. Yet, less than 1% of natural gas is currently used for transportation. Critical greenhouse gas emissions from natural gas are 23% lower than diesel and 30% lower than gasoline.
There are more than 7 million natural gas vehicles in the world, but only 150,000 of these are in the United States. In some places, natural gas is less than $1 a gallon.
In order to get natural gas, you have to drill for it. And this notion that we are somehow going to have more natural gas without the ability to drill for it is well, it's asinine. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And if you want a clean-burning natural gas fuel, you've got to go out and find places where you can drill for it.
Demand for natural gas is expected to grow in the coming years. Another untapped but promising form of clean-burning natural gas we rarely hear about are gas hydrates, the ice that burns.
If you put a match to gas hydrate, it burns with a soft orange flame. This is essentially frozen natural gas.
There are hundreds of billions of potential barrel equivalents of natural gas in gas hydrates, particularly here in the United States.
In the United States, gas hydrates are found along the Outer Continental Shelf, in the Arctic, and offshore in Alaska, and there's a lot of it.
Right now we can't go out there and explore for this stuff because the politicians won't let us go and get it. So it's really hard to know how many of these hydrates we have, how are we going to get them out of the earth, how are we going to use them, because we can't even go drill for oil, so how are we going to go do these other things?
Depending on how much we're allowed to get it, we have anywhere from, say, 60 years of natural gas to 120 to thousands of years of natural gas if we crack this hydrate mystery.
The time is now to fully develop the extraordinary richness of gas hydrates. They may very well turn out to be an invaluable resource, not only for America, but for the whole world. Any solution to the current energy crisis will have to increase our ability to refine crude oil into usable fuel. We have not built a new oil refinery in the United States since 1976.
We've not built a new refinery in some 30-plus years because of the economics of building refineries. We have expanded certain refineries across the United States, but we've just not built any new ones. Public policy has a big deal to do with that.
We need to produce more American oil by building more American refineries. But the combination of bureaucracy, litigation, and bad tax policy have made this almost impossible.
One of the big things I hear is that it takes such a long period of time to get through the government bureaucratic red tape, to get through the lawsuits that the various extreme left environmental groups will file against a company who is trying to build a refinery or a nuclear plant.
So that ends up as being a choke point in our supply system. It's one of the reasons why we can't get enough refined gasoline here in the United States and why prices are so high.
The trouble it is to try and upgrade a refinery, the permitting process to go through, the not in my backyard syndrome that's taking place. It's really easier for companies to close down refineries than to try and build new ones.
They can't get the permits. So when you can't get the permits, we do silly things like we ask Mexico to build refineries, which is what we're doing today.
If we want to remain competitive in the international economy, we have to overhaul the dysfunctional regulatory process.
We actually have to import refined gasoline in the United States of America, which is the most expensive, god-awful way to get gasoline in your car. The environmentalists ought to be going crazy over this, because what happens is not only do they explore oil somewhere else in the world, then they send it someplace else to refine it, which costs energy, then they have to put it back on another boat to send it to the United States to get it offloaded, to get it in a pipe, to get it to your car. It's a horrible way to get fuel for our cars.
India right now is building the world's largest